In the year 2071, in the city of Moscow, the surroundings show how the planet Earth has greatly suffered from the intergalactic war fueled by Cherno, an evil scientist who dreams of conquering the entire universe. He is regarded as the most dangerous prisoner, turning his experiments into weapons that threaten lives. 20 years after the war, the humans, also known as Earthlings, still face hardships and struggle to sustain their basic needs. Anton, a young male Earthling, waits in a long line of humans to refill his water supply when a mysterious figure from the shadows intentionally manipulates a metal pole to collapse from behind him. Anton manages to evade the falling pole, but it creates a commotion in the area. The humans stare at him in dismay, accusing him of being plagued by bad luck out of their annoyance at the continuous accidents involving him. Meanwhile, while the mysterious figure who turns out to be Cherno's daughter, Valya, reports back to her father in his gigantic spaceship turned prison, Valya's consistent failed attempts to stimulate Anton's DNA upset Cherno. His latest invention, the protogene, a combination of unique cells, is about to run out. The last remaining protogene is revealed to be within Anton's DNA, and it serves as the only key to his freedom. As a result, Cherno continually pressures her to keep on pursuing Anton and kill him for good, a value that feels heavily burdened. While his prison resides in the deep underground, another huge spaceship hovers right above, inside the city. This spaceship is displayed as a dandelion-shaped stadium that caters to a high-risk flying sport known as Cosmoball. Intergalactic teams of 4 must kick the destructive ball of energy called the Wave Eater 5 times to open their opposing team's goal and score a point. 3 gifted humans fan Natasha and Pelly, who make up the team of Earthlings, in which they all skillfully strike their opponent's goal open, despite being outnumbered. The game is broadcasted everywhere above the skies of the Earth in big holographic scenes, serving as the humans' greatest source of entertainment. On the contrary, Anton is frustrated at the impact brought by the Cosmoball to the humans. He calls them out for being too immersed in a game when there are far better things to focus on, such as getting a job and dealing with hunger. Back in the stadium, the Earthlings and their current opponent, the Sarusians, both succeed in opening their opposing gold zone stand. A star player of the Sarusians strikes a goal and they take the lead against the Earthlings by 1. In fact, the Wave Eater is one of Cherno's inventions, and they are in the midst of transporting another Wave Eater to the playing field. Cherno's success peacefully intercepts the transfer and instead tosses the wave towards the machines. A few machines smashed, severely injuring the guards in the process. This urges Bello, the head of the Galactic Cosmoball League, to momentarily halt the game and inform the players about the sudden technical difficulty. The guards regained control of the Wave Eater, and the game resumed as soon as the ball reached the playing field. Though the game ended in a draw, it is the first time in history that the Earthlings triumphantly make their way to the finals, earning a loud cheer from the human spectators in and out of the stadium. Cherno, on the other hand, shouts in anguish at the sight of his creation turning into lumps of rock. The night emerges, and Anton comes home to his sick mother. He finds out that his mom has been lying about her medical supply and pretends to be fine. Anton rushes to the pharmacy, where he comes across a young woman named Anya. The two of them break into the pharmacy to steal some food and medical supplies, but the alarm immediately catches the attention of the police. 2 police officers led by Captain Vasily catch up to them. Anton pretends to surrender alone and distracts the officers while Anya remains hidden. He manages to create an opening by distracting them and is able to run away. Just then, Anton runs and crashes onto a rushing vehicle, causing him to shout in panic. Vasily checks the front of the truck, only to find nothing else but the stolen medicine spilled all over the floor. They leave the place in confusion, while Valya, who has effectively concealed herself as the driver of the truck, grins in satisfaction. Later, it is revealed that Anya is also Valya, who has been following Anton all this time. Anton's fear has activated the protogene, and his teleportation ability for the first time. As he teleports uncontrollably a few miles away from his previous location, disguised as Anya, Valya lures Anton to her basement and captures his attention through their shared interests, such as their dislike for Cosmoball and their desire to help their sick parents. Anton listens intently to why Anya pulls a few strands of his hair, to collect a portion of the protogene from his DNA. Anya brings the hair strands to her father, but the protogene barely responds because of the inadequate amount. While Anton comes back home surprised at the sight of Bello, and the team of Earthlings in their house. Bello confirms Anton's teleportation ability and expresses his interest in recruiting him as the 4th player on the team of Earthlings. But Anton strongly declines, telling them that he does not like Cosmoball and that he has to take care of his sick mom. Natasha steps in and insists on finding a cure for his sick mom. In exchange for his approval, she convinces both Bello and Anton, and they seal the deal with a handshake. Anton is instantly brought to the stadium, where he marvels at every sight during his checkup. Bello takes a sample of Anton's genetic material in order to generate his very own Sputnik, a droid that will serve as his gear and buddy during the games. Everyone on Team Earthling owns a Sputnik that caters to their respective body composition. Anton slightly struggles in the first few minutes of training, but does not take long to control his teleportation abilities. He adjusts to the abilities quickly enough for Bello and the team of Earthlings to observe a situation that they have never encountered. Bello instructs Anton to play the first 2 games the next day and resume his training afterwards. Bello leaves with Natasha afterwards to meet with the Galactic Council and talk about a possible cure for Anton's mother. The council displays their contempt at the thought of helping Anton and his mother's intergalactic infection, but Bello firmly insists on going by the deal. He regards Anton as the most gifted athlete, after having seen his performance on the first day of training. Natasha spends time with Anton and expresses her fondness for him every chance she gets, which bewilders Anton most of the time. Valya, who has shapeshifted as her alternate identity Anya, captures Anton's attention through their shared dislike for Cosmoball and the same intention of finding a cure for her father. She takes advantage of Anton by giving him a poisonous pod that can possibly destroy the stadium's ship and end Cosmoball for good. Anton Sputnik arrives at the scene with Natasha to fetch him before they leave. Anya gives Anton a peck on the lips and slips the pod onto his hand, while Anton's Sputnik eyes are on you suspiciously. On their way back to the stadium's ship, Anton grows interested in his Sputnik. Natasha tells him that Sputniks warn their owner of potential threats, and may or may not activate battle mode depending on the probability of danger. Another game of Cosmoball commences the following day. The poisonous pod stays undetected even after going through inspection. The team of Earthlings links up with their Sputniks to gear up for the game. Anton, who is worldly and holding the poisonous pod in his hand, gets it stuck beneath his glove. Anton talks to his Sputnik and removes the glove. Anton uses his hand to squeeze the poisonous pod, and its sap spreads across the stadium ship's floor. Anton nonchalantly walks away after following Anya's orders, and enters the waiting area as the athletes enter the playing field. Anton finds himself surrounded by a large crowd full of welcoming cheers. Back in his house, his mom watches the game together with Vasily, who is looking healthier than ever from the continuous medications. Soon, the players get into position and start the game. Anton, on the other hand, sits on the ground and ignores the entire game, causing the audience to call him a quitter. Bello pauses the game to summon Anton, attempting to talk some sense into him. He shows Anton the entire machinery inside the Prestadium ship and explains how Cosmoball is more than just a game. He tells Anton about the war with Cherno the Wave Eater, and his last invention the Protogene. He says to Anton that being an athlete allows him to give his fellow Earthlings something to hope for amidst their current situation. Anton eventually realizes the repercussions of his action and runs back to retrieve the poisonous pod that he dropped, only to find that it has already seeped into a portion of the ship's stadium. He comes back to the playing field and shouts that the stadium has been infected, but to no avail as the game goes on. Bello fortunately notices him and reacts quickly by freezing the infected area. The poison continues to spread, and the Prestadium ship goes into emergency evacuation mode, in order to protect the audience. Natasha arrives to free the remaining audience stuck inside when the Wave Eater dashes in her direction. Anton sees this and races to her aid before the athletes kick the Wave Eater 5 times, which results in its meltdown. He loses consciousness after being hit by the Wave Eater, but he wakes up not long after. He immediately goes to confront Anya in her basement, but as soon as their eyes meet, she stuns him and shows him her true form as Valya. While confessing her admiration for him, even though she is disappointed in him for not completely destroying the stadium ship, she begins to collect a moderate amount of proton in his DNA before leaving him unconscious. Anton Sputnik barely looks for him, after sensing the threat and finding him lying unconscious. His Sputnik connects with him and ends up exhausting itself to heal Anton's injury. At the same time, Cherno acquires the Protogene from Valya, and begins his escape plan through the Protogene. Through the Protogene, Cherno summons another one of his creations, a gigantic puppy-like creature. He links himself with the creature to gain full control and uses it as a spaceship. The Protogene in his possession also grants him the ability to teleport his way out. After a while, Anton wakes up and sees Natasha and Bello beside him. Somewhere inside the same basement, Bello hears Cherno calling his name. Cherno addresses Bello as his creator and invites him to join forces with him. Natasha becomes confused upon hearing this and questions him up front, but Bello shrugs her off along with the Saruzas and Amazonians. They all gather outside and briefly encounter Cherno as he successfully escapes and teleports out of planet Earth, while the athletes stay on guard throughout the city. While Bello informs the Galactic Council, he also reveals the closely guarded secret of the Cosmoball to everyone. They learn that Cosmoball is not a game but a war, and that the Prestadium ship is built to prevent the destruction of the planet. Back in his home, Anton's mom comes to tell him that the athletes are leaving for the war against Cherno, but Anton looks down weirdly and is disheartened by the events around him while holding his Sputnik in his embrace. His mom turns to comfort him, saying that on planet Earth, people make mistakes all the time, but there are strong people who try to fix the mistakes they've made. At the same time, Bello is holding another meeting with the Galactic Council about their plan of action, when Natasha suddenly enters. Still bugged by what she heard, Natasha persistently asks Bello why Cherno addressed him as his creator. Bello is left with no choice but to explain to her that Cherno is the greatest failure. As a fellow scientist, he says that Cherno was forged in his image. He admits his mistakes, thinking that Cherno would assist him like the Sputniks do. He has given him feelings but has failed to shape them. Bello and Cherno's falling out has led to the banishment of Cherno, and has resulted in the events of the Intergalactic War. 20 years ago, outside the planet Earth, Cherno prepared to fire his newly created wave eaters from his ship. He reunites with Valya, instructing her to prevent the athletes from leaving the Earth as long as she can. A huge battle takes place immediately after. Cherno sends a succession of wave eaters to the surface of Earth. At the same time, Fan Fifield along with the members of the Ceresians and Amazonians, spread out in different positions outside the city in anticipation. They continuously kick at the incoming wave eaters, tossing them towards each other to complete the 5 strikes. Outside the ships of the Galactic Alliance, under the supervision of Bello, the fleet sets up a trap for Cherno and his ship. Cherno, on the other hand, gets to know about the trap and destroys the ship single-handedly, which is watched by Bello and Natasha. In torment while using the stadium ship, they continue their pursuit on Cherno, and in the midst of destroying the wave eaters, the athletes begin to feel fatigue. Stan is on the verge of overheating, while Fan is injured from being hit by the wave, and despite the fact that they push forward, the impact of their swift strike causes some buildings to crash in some areas of the city. It is when Anton alarmingly gets up and witnesses what is happening, that he talks earnestly to his Sputnik and fully establishes their connection. Anton later calls his Sputnik's name Mowgli, which finally awakens it. Anton heads out to assist Fan and Peli. He brings the injured Fan to safety with the help of their fellow Earthlings. Residents of the city of Moscow find shelter against the falling debris, including Anton's mom and Vasily, who have developed a romantic relationship after hanging out together on several occasions up in the sky. Watching 2 wave eaters in a row rushing towards Anton's direction, he manages to strike the first one but fails to notice the second, which drags him towards the ground. He lands safely but ends up in tattered clothes. His Sputnik Mowgli senses the situation and instantly comes to his aid. They happily reconcile and link together, creating Anton's gear for combat. Anton is now able to communicate with the rest of the athletes, and with Mowgli in battle mode, he begins to strike once again in full spirit. He successfully destroys each wave eater with only 1 hit, impressing the rest of the athletes. On the other side, Bello decides to face Cherno head-on, and gives Natasha full control of the ship's stadium, ordering her to go back to Earth and save the others in case he does not make it back alive. Natasha agrees and teleports with Bello, inside Cherno's ship, where they arrive to finally confront him. Bello later shows his true form while facing Cherno, and they shortly catch up on the 20-year gap. Immediately after their battle transpires, Cherno sneaks an attack towards Bello, but they quickly catch on in response, and Natasha teleports right in front of him to kick him, but Valya interrupts her. Natasha evades Val's attack and teleports away. However, Val captures and stunts her instantly. Cherno aggressively charges at Bello, gloating that he has gotten much stronger than him, despite being his creation, while Anton successfully teleports on the Earth's moon. With Mowgli witnessing the moon's sorry state, Mowgli's alarm activates, sensing danger nearby, and they head straight towards the area while thinking of Natasha and Bello in the ship. Bello angers Cherno, after he attacks with balls of ice towards his protogenes. Cherno creates a large shield to protect his creation, while Bello continuously attacks. Bello slips up a ball of ice right above the shield, where he directly hits Cherno. The ice spreads around Cherno, and it freezes his entire body. When Bello's constant attacks break the shield and almost freeze Cherno's entire creation of protogenes, Valya shape-switches to Natasha's form and stuns him. Valya currently gains the upper hand, incapacitating both Bello and Natasha. Before she destroys the ice that has been trapping Cherno, Cherno breaks free and utilizes his elastic gear to strangle Bello. He says his parting words and is about to kill him, but Anton arrives in time. Anton takes Valya hostage against Cherno, making him release his hold on Bello. Cherno walks in Anton's direction and challenges him as if he can never kill Valya. He mentions that Valya has never been a perfect creation and stabs her in the abdomen himself. Cherno's blade lightly touches Anton's gear, and it pushes him forcefully onto the lining of the ship where he is trapped and unable to teleport. Bello barely manages to keep Cherno distracted by dropping a bead of ice, in an attempt to neutralize the power of the evil. Cherno proceeds to direct his makeshift spear towards Bello and kills him instantly. Anton takes the chance to connect with the ship itself through their shared elves. He meets the puppy-like creature, and it wildly chases him. As Anton nears the exit, he decides to stop and directly face the creature instead. The wild creature is taken back, its limbs coming to a full stop in front of the Earthling. They both stare at each other for a moment, and Anton later protests vehemently at the creature for its threatening behavior. It roars at him in reply before sensing their connection. And pushing further, Anton calms the creature by lightly touching its head. Soon enough, he successfully establishes trust with the creature, enabling him to break free of the lining of the ship. Furthermore, the creature grows fond of Anton, which ultimately destroys its connection to Cherno. Cherno tries to resist and claims that he is the master, but the creature no longer listens to him. He is mercilessly ejected out of the ship and tossed onto a massive ball of hot gas, where he melts to death. Natasha regains control of her body after being released from the trap. Anton teleports back to her and together they return to Earth. On Earth, the citizens have grown tired of hiding. They have become determined to survive and have gathered to fight for humanity through Val's base leadership. Through Val's lead, they go into position, ready to fight the wave eaters coming their way, when all suddenly stop and stay in place after Cherno's defeat, claiming their victory. The residents of the city of Moscow cheer out loud. After some time, when the city is brought into better shape, under the leadership of Natasha, the energy from the remaining wave eaters has been harnessed to restore and improve the way of life on Earth. In her speech, she stresses that it is the time for Earthlings to live, not just arrive. It is broadcasted all over the planet, with everyone honoring Bello's sacrifice. The movie concludes with the team of Earthlings reuniting after Natasha's speech, along with Anton's mom, his new stepfather, and the creature whom he now calls Kid.